What if the very concept of a hospital as you know it has already ceased to exist? What if the walls around you were not made of dead concrete, but of an active, breathing intelligence that knew your genetic weaknesses before you even stepped through the door? Could you recognize the moment when medicine stopped being a reaction to pain and became a silent, invisible prevention of death? Have you ever considered that the most advanced healing environment would feel less like a sterile clinic and more like a sanctuary of pure data and light? Why do we still cling to the image of waiting rooms and the smell of antiseptic when the future has already dissolved those physical barriers into a digital ether? You stand on the edge of a sidewalk in a revitalized Chicago in the year 2050, where the air no longer carries the heavy metallic tang of combustion, but the faint, ionized hum of a city powered by fusion and filtered by vertical forests. Before you stands a structure that defies the traditional American architectural brutalism of the past century. It is the Neo-General Medical Nexus, a building that does not loom over the street but seems to grow out of it, wrapped in a translucent, bioreactive polymer skin that shifts its opacity based on the angle of the sun and the emotional state of the occupants within. You walk toward the entrance, but there are no sliding glass doors that hiss open, no security guards with heavy belts, and certainly no receptionists behind high plastic partitions. The transition is seamless. As your feet move from the textured, recycled pavement of the street onto the soft, sound-absorbing floor of the perimeter, the temperature drops exactly 2 degrees, stabilizing to a perfect, crisp coolness that feels like a mountain morning. You are not entering a building, you are being integrated into a system. There is a profound silence here, a density to the air that suggests a level of filtration so absolute that you can almost feel the absence of dust, pollen, and pathogens. It is the sound of a vacuum that isn't empty, a pressurized peace. Your skin picks up a subtle vibration, a haptic welcome from the floor sensors that have already identified your biometric signature through the unique cadence of your stride and the thermal map of your face. You expect to find a desk, a clipboard, a line of anxious people holding numbered tickets, but there is only an expansive, open atrium filled with soft, diffused amber light. The walls are lined with living moss and bioluminescent moss that pulse with a slow, rhythmic green glow, mimicking a resting human heart rate to subconsciously lower your cortisol levels. You realize that the waiting room, that relic of 20th century inefficiency where the sick sat among the sick, has been eradicated. In 2050, the American healthcare philosophy has shifted from centralized waiting to distributed, immediate processing. You move deeper into the atrium, and the space seems to breathe with you. Small, walnut-sized drones glide silently through the upper reaches of the ceiling, deploying localized mists of personalized neuroaromatics designed to sharpen your focus or soothe your anxiety, depending on your instantaneous hormonal readings. You feel a slight tingling on your forearms as the ambient ultraviolet light in the entryway performs a final, high-intensity sterilization of your clothing and skin. A painless, invisible fire that leaves you biologically neutral. This is the new American threshold, a place where the chaos of the outside world is stripped away to prepare the vessel of the body for the precision of the machine. The light here does not come from flickering fluorescent tubes, but from the very molecules of the air, stimulated by low-frequency electromagnetic fields to provide a shadowless, perfect clarity. You look around and see other visitors, but they are not sitting in rows. They are walking through interactive light corridors or resting in ergonomic pods that look like smooth river stones. The atmosphere is one of profound, almost religious efficiency. You notice that the floor beneath you has a slight rubbery give, a material engineered to harvest the kinetic energy of your steps, while simultaneously analyzing your posture for signs of neurological decay or muscular imbalance. Every movement you make is a data point. Every breath you draw is a chemical sample. You are being diagnosed by the environment itself, long before a human doctor or even a high-level synthetic intelligence interventions. The air carries a hint of ozone and sandalwood, a curated scent profile that anchors you to the present moment. You feel a sense of strange, clinical safety, a departure from the sterile terror of the hospitals of your childhood. Here, the technology is so advanced that it has become invisible, hiding behind the aesthetics of nature and the comfort of the home. You are a guest in a cathedral of biology, where the ancient American drive for innovation, HAS, finally conquered the friction of the physical experience. This is the beginning of the end of human fragility as a static condition. It is the realization that the body is not a closed system, but a fluctuating map of possibilities that can be steered, corrected, and optimized. As you cross the final invisible line into the diagnostic sector, you feel the weight of the past dropping away, replaced by the terrifyingly beautiful precision of a future that no longer waits for permission to heal. It is this level of transformation that defines our era, a shift so radical that it requires a new way of seeing ourselves and the machines we build to sustain us. Check if you are already subscribed to this channel, because here we delve deeply into the structures that shape tomorrow, revealing the technical secrets and social changes that most people will only be able to understand when the future is already the present, ensuring that you are always ahead of the perception curve of our own evolution. As you prepare to leave the entry zone, the walls around you begin to display a faint, holographic overlay of your own circulatory system, a ghost of red and blue light dancing in the air beside you, signaling that the first layer of the hospital's intelligence has finished its initial assessment and is ready to take you deeper into the molecular reality of your own existence. The silence of the atrium deepens, and the journey into the core of 2050 healthcare truly begins. You leave the soft amber glow of the atrium behind and move into a corridor that feels less like a hallway and more like the interior of a vast, living optical fiber. In this American hospital of 2050, the very concept of a medical symptom, that late, often desperate cry for help from a failing organ, has been rendered obsolete by a persistent molecular dialogue between your body and the architecture surrounding you. As you walk, the walls here are not solid in the way you remember. They are composed of a hyper-dense lattice of carbon nanotubes and synthetic cilia that wave almost imperceptibly. Sampling the air you exhale every 3 seconds, you breathe in, and the system breathes with you, analyzing the volatile organic compounds in your breath to detect the faint chemical signature of a burgeoning tumor or a microscopic viral load, long before it could ever manifest as a cough or a fever. The floor beneath your shoes is a marvel of piezoelectric engineering, a surface that doesn't just support your weight, but measures the specific force distribution of your metatarsals to calculate bone density and early-stage osteoporotic degradation. You feel a strange sense of transparency, as if the physical boundaries of your skin have dissolved into the stream of data that now defines your presence in this space. The lighting shifts from the warm tones of the entry to a cool, clinical cyan, a frequency of light that has been proven to enhance the cognitive function of the biosensing algorithms monitoring the wing. There is no sound of machines humming, only a deep, rhythmic pulse that you eventually realize is the synchronized beat of the building's centralized cooling system, mimicking a human heart to maintain a psychological anchor in this world of pure abstraction. To your left, a transparent panel reveals a chamber where a patient sits, or rather floats in a pressurized gel bed that provides real-time feedback on every muscle fiber's tension. You are witnessing the end of the physical exam as a discrete event. In 2050, diagnosis is a continuous state of being. The air itself is saturated with smart dust, microscopic sensors that settle on your skin and communicate with the hospital's central nervous system, mapping your hydration levels and glucose fluctuations without a single needle prick. You look down at your hands and realize that in this light, the veins beneath your skin seem to glow with an artificial clarity, a result of the diagnostic sub-frequencies emitted by the ceiling panels. The American obsession with efficiency has here reached its zenith. The time between the birth of a pathology and its detection has been reduced to milliseconds. This is a profound structural shift from the reactive medicine of the previous century to a predictive molecular sovereignty. You feel the air grow slightly denser, a localized increase in humidity used to stabilize the delicate biosensors that are currently cross-referencing your current biological state against your digital twin, a perfect computational replica of your body that has lived in the cloud since your birth. This twin has already simulated 10,000 different ways your current afternoon could end, preemptively adjusting the ambient environment to counteract a slight spike in your blood pressure that you haven't even felt yet. The fragility of the human form is no longer a mystery to be solved by a doctor's intuition, but a mathematical problem being solved by 1,000 invisible processes, our square inch. You pass a sensor array that resembles a cluster of translucent sea anemones, their tentacles flickering as they scan the electromagnetic field of your heart. It is a moment of total vulnerability, yet it feels like the ultimate security. The contrast is jarring. You are a creature of ancient, messy biology, walking through a cathedral of perfect, crystalline logic. Every step you take is an act of data generation. The hospital knows the exact thickness of your carotid artery and the precise level of dopamine currently circulating in your brain. It knows your fears before they reach your conscious mind, adjusting the wall color to a soothing lavender to mitigate a rise in your pulse. This is the new American frontier, not a physical space, but the internal landscape of the human cell, colonized by technology for the sake of an indefinite survival. The silence here is heavy with the weight of all that is being prevented, a quiet victory over the entropy that used to define the human experience. In this environment, you realize that the most powerful thing a person can do is simply exist, as the system does the rest, weaving a safety net of sensors around every heartbeat. Comment now on the phrase, "The silence of machines is the voice of my healing," because this statement captures the essence of this transition, where we stop being patients and become data protected by an intelligence that never sleeps and that knows us better than we know ourselves. The atmosphere begins to shift again as you approach the end of the diagnostic corridor. The floor transitions from the piezoelectric tiles to a smoother, darker material that seems to absorb all light, signaling your entry into the functional zones, where the data collected here is turned into physical action. You feel a slight drop in the air pressure, a sign that you are moving into a higher-tier clean room environment. The blue light fades into a brilliant surgical white that seems to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once, erasing all shadows and leaving only the stark reality of the biological machine. You are no longer just an observer, you are a participant in a grand experiment of self-preservation, a journey that has now moved past the stage of seeing and into the stage of rebuilding. The walls here are thicker, reinforced with lead alternative composites to shield the delicate robotic instruments in the next sector from the electromagnetic noise of the outside world. You take one last deep breath of the sensor-laden air, knowing that as you move forward, the relationship between your body and the machine will become even more intimate as the hospital prepares to not just watch you, but to intervene with a precision that was once the stuff of fever dreams. The molecular pulse of the building guides you forward, a steady, invisible hand leading you toward the heart of the robotic symphony. You step across a threshold where the floor transitions into a seamless, antimicrobial liquid metal alloy, a surface that feels both solid and strangely elastic under your weight. You have entered the heart of the surgical and regenerative wing, the robotic symphony, where the American clinical tradition has finally abandoned the scalpel for the precision of the atom. The air here is noticeably thinner, pressurized to prevent any stray particles from entering this sanctum of structural intervention, and the temperature is held at a constant bracing 68 degrees. There are no overhead lights in the traditional sense. Instead, the ceiling is a vast, interconnected grid of micro-LEDs that track your movement, casting a soft, shadowless glow that eliminates the very concept of a dark corner. As you move deeper, you notice that the rooms are not separated by heavy doors, but by shimmering, high-frequency sonic curtains that block sound and contaminants with absolute efficiency. To your right, you stop before a viewing aperture. Behind the glass, there is no team of surgeons huddled over a body, no blood-stained scrubs, and no frantic monitors. Instead, you see a patient suspended in a semi-liquid suspension of oxygenated fluorocarbons. Above them, a dozen slender, carbon fiber robotic arms move with a grace that feels more like a choreographed ballet than a medical procedure. They do not cut, they manipulate. These machines operate at a frequency of movement that the human eye can barely perceive. Their tips, equipped with femtosecond lasers that can disassemble a blood clot or a neural obstruction one cell at a time. The sound is a low-frequency hum, a digital purr that resonates in your chest, representing the synchronized calculations of a decentralized intelligence. You are witnessing the ultimate contrast between the cold, unyielding precision of American steel and the soft, vulnerable complexity of living human tissue. In a neighboring chamber, the process of bioprinting is unfolding in real time. You watch as a translucent ceramic nozzle extrudes a dipliate scaffolding of collagen and living stem cells, weaving a new human kidney layer by layer. It looks like a ghost appearing out of a mist, a structure being built from the ground up, using the patient's own genetic blueprint to ensure there is no possibility of rejection. The rhythm of the printing head is hypnotic, a mechanical heartbeat creating biological life. This is where the American industrial spirit has met the frontier of immortality. You feel a chill that isn't just from the climate control. It is the realization that the body is now treated as a modular assembly, something that can be repaired, upgraded, and replaced part by part. The silence of the wing is periodically broken by the sharp, metallic click of nanobot canisters being loaded into the arterial delivery systems. These microscopic workers are the true masters of this space, billions of autonomous machines smaller than a red blood cell, programmed to navigate the labyrinth of the human circulatory system, to patch leaks, scrub plaque, and deliver localized payloads of genetic editing tools. You see a monitor displaying a magnified view of a capillary, where a cluster of these nanobots is working with the frantic, organized energy of a hive, their movements so precise they make the natural world look clumsy. The lighting in this sector shifts to a deep, focused amber as the complexity of the interventions increases. You feel a peculiar tension in the air, the friction between the absolute control of the algorithm and the inherent unpredictability of organic life. Everything is designed for stability, for the total elimination of risk, yet the very material being handled is the essence of fragility. You walk past a row of recovery pods where the patients, though they look more like sleepers in a futuristic dream, are being integrated with their new biological components. Their skin is covered in a thin, iridescent film of synthetic cells that accelerates healing by a factor of 10. You realize that in this American hospital of 2050, the surgeon is no longer a person, but a system of distributed sensors and robotic executors. If you are finding this vision of the future as fascinating as the technology itself, leave a like on this video so we can continue to bring you these immersive explorations into how human engineering is rewriting the laws of biology and survival. The robotic symphony continues around you, a relentless pursuit of perfection that ignores the limitations of the past. You notice that the walls here have a subtle geometric pattern that actually functions as a massive antenna array, providing the high bandwidth connectivity required for the nanobots to receive their real-time updates. The density of technology per cubic inch in this wing is higher than anywhere else on the planet. It is a place of extreme abundance of data, abundance of precision, and an abundance of hope that has been engineered into existence. Yet, there is a lingering shadow of scarcity, the scarcity of the human touch, of the intuitive leap that a doctor once made. Here, everything is calculated, simulated, and then executed with a cold, mathematical certainty. You see a robotic arm retract after finishing a neural bypass, its movements so fluid they seem liquid. The contrast is final. The human body is the chaotic guest in this house of perfect order. As you prepare to leave the symphony and move toward the neural sectors, you feel a profound sense of awe at the structural integrity of this new world. The interventions are no longer invasive. They are an invitation for the body to align itself with the machine. You take one last look at the bioprinter, which has now completed the lower cortex of the new organ, a glistening pink-hued reality born from a digital file. The light in the corridor begins to pulse with a faster tempo, signaling that the data being harvested from these procedures is being fed back into the great neural network of the hospital. You move forward, the liquid metal floor guiding you toward the next layer of this American miracle, where the boundary between physical flesh and digital consciousness finally begins to blur into a single, unified stream of existence. The air grows warmer as you exit the pressurized zone, and the hum of the robots fades into the background, replaced by the silent electric tension of the data vaults that lie ahead in the next phase of your journey. The air transitions from the sterile crispness of the surgical wing into a dense, charged atmosphere that feels alive with an invisible electricity. You are now entering the neural network, the cognitive core of this American medical fortress, where the physical body is no longer the primary patient. Here, the walls are covered in deep charcoal glass, behind which millions of fiber optic pathways pulse with a rhythmic, violet light, mimicking the firing of human neurons. There are no beds in this sector, only rows of suspension-ended cognitive cradles, sleek obsidian pods where the consciousness of the modern American is mapped, mirrored, and maintained. As you move through this silent forest of data, you realize that the most important part of you no longer resides solely within your skull. It lives here, in the form of your digital twin. This is a high-fidelity, real-time computational replication of your entire existence, from the specific folding of your proteins to the chemical remnants of a childhood trauma stored in your amygdala. The hospital does not merely treat your present illnesses, it simulates your entire life cycle. It runs millions of parallel simulations every second, projecting your health 40 years into the future to identify a heart failure that hasn't happened yet, or a cognitive decline that is still just a mathematical probability. You feel a strange sense of haunting as you look at the flickering displays. You are looking at the ghosts of yourself that never were, and the versions of yourself that might still be. The shift is absolute. Medicine has moved from the crude repair of the flesh to the elegant management of information. Your personal history, once a messy collection of paper records and faded memories, is now a crystalline structure of pure data, managed by a hyper-intelligent synthetic core that never forgets a single heartbeat. The floor here is made of a dark, resonant polymer that seems to pull the sound from your footsteps, creating an environment of profound, almost reverent quiet. In this space, the American dream of self-reinvention has reached its ultimate digital frontier. You are no longer a victim of your genetic inheritance. You are a variable in an equation that can be adjusted. You watch as a technician, whose role is more akin to a data architect than a physician, adjusts a slider on a holographic interface, subtly recalibrating the neurotransmitter balance of a patient in a distant wing by updating their digital twin's predictive model. The interface between the organic and the synthetic is so seamless that it becomes impossible to tell where the biological person ends and the simulation begins. This is the new architecture of human identity. You feel the immense stability of this system, a structural rigidity built on quintillions of data points, yet you also feel the fragile nature of a life that is now entirely dependent on the integrity of a server farm. The abundance of information is overwhelming, a sensory flood of blue and violet light that reflects off your skin, making you part of the network. If this transformation of the human soul into a manageable stream of data strikes you as the most significant turning point in our history, share this video with someone who still believes that the future will only be about robots and medicine, so that they see that the real revolution is happening silently within the neural networks that now hold our essence. The humidity in the room is precisely controlled to prevent static discharge, creating a heavy, still environment that feels like being inside a massive brain. You notice that the pulse of the violet light slows down as you reach the center of the hub, reflecting a state of deep computational sleep, where the system is processing the massive influx of data from the lower floors. The contrast between the chaotic, messy reality of the streets outside and this temple of cold, perfect logic is jarring. In the old world, life was a series of accidents. Here, it is a curated experience. You feel a slight vibration in the soles of your feet, the literal hum of the processors beneath the floor working to keep your digital ghost alive. This is where the American obsession with control finds its final sanctuary. Every thought you have is mirrored by a spike in the local electromagnetic field, captured by sensors in the ceiling and fed back into the loop. You are being watched, not by a person, but by a destiny that has been coded into existence. The transition from treating to simulating means that death itself is no longer a surprise, but a scheduled event that the system works tirelessly to postpone through constant microscopic adjustments to your digital profile. As you prepare to exit this hall of mirrors, the violet light begins to fade into a soft, ethereal white. You are moving toward the final elevation, leaving the realm of pure data to enter the space where all these technological threads finally weave together into a new definition of what it means to be alive. The air grows lighter, and the heavy charge of the neural network begins to dissipate, replaced by a sense of vast, open possibility. You have seen the sensors, the robots, and the data. Now you are ready to see the human purpose that justifies this entire magnificent machine. The journey through the American hospital of 2050 is nearly complete, and the final revelation of the horizon of longevity awaits you just beyond the next sonic short N, where the physical and the philosophical finally collide. You emerge from the digital hum of the neural core and step into a space that feels radically different, a vast observatory of glass and white stone that looks out over the American skyline of 2050. The air here is no longer pressurized or ionized. It is warm, carrying the natural scent of rain and blooming jasmine from the vertical gardens that cling to the building's exterior. You have reached the horizon of longevity, the final structural layer where the mechanical and the molecular give way to the purely human. In this American hospital, the journey has led you from the street to the cell, and from the cell to the simulation. But here, the focus returns to the soul. You stand before a panoramic window, watching the sun set over a city that no longer fears the plague or the sudden heart failure. You realize that in this future, the body is no longer a biological destiny dictated by the lottery of birth, but a curated vessel maintained by the silent symphony of machines you have just witnessed. What does it mean to be human when the expiration date has been indefinitely postponed? Is the essence of our humanity found in our struggle against decay, or in our ability to finally transcend it? The silence in this hall is not the sterile stillness of a clinic, but the heavy, contemplative stillness of a library. You see people here who are technically over 150 years old, yet they move with the fluid grace of youth, their skin perfected by bioprinters, and their minds kept sharp by neural optimization. The structural stability of this society is built on the permanence of its citizens, a radical departure from the American history of the past, which was defined by the rapid turnover of generations. You feel a profound sense of weight, an ethical gravity that comes with the abolition of natural limits. The contrast between the fragile, fleeting lives of your ancestors and the crystalline endurance of this new era is the ultimate revelation of your journey. You are no longer a guest in a hospital. You are a witness to the end of human tragedy as a biological necessity. The abundance of time has changed the very rhythm of life. People no longer rush, they deliberate. Career paths span centuries, and relationships are re-evaluated through the lens of a 1,000-year horizon. This is the American miracle realized, the final conquest of the frontier, but it is a frontier that lies inward, in the depths of our own longevity. You notice the light reflecting off the white stone floor, a soft, natural glow that reminds you of the entry atrium, bringing the architectural journey to a full, closed circle. The hospital has served its purpose. It has transformed you from a vulnerable biological entity into a stable, a managed existence. But as you look out at the horizon, you cannot help but feel the ghost of the old world, the one where the uncertainty of tomorrow gave a specific, sharp beauty to the present moment. In 2050, beauty is different. It is the beauty of a diamond, hard, clear, and seemingly eternal. The risk of death has been replaced by the responsibility of permanence. You are the architect of your own continuity, a participant in a grand social experiment where the only limit is the imagination of the network that sustains you. The light of the setting sun catches the faint shimmer of the diagnostic dust still clinging to your sleeves, a reminder that even in this moment of philosophical elevation, you are still being watched and cared for by the invisible intelligence of the building. This is the synthesis of our evolution. The machine has become our guardian so that we may finally become our own masters. You take a final breath of the garden-scented air, feeling the immense scale of what has been achieved in this American sanctuary of health. The journey through the neo-general medical nexus is complete, but your journey as a citizen of the age of longevity is only just beginning. It is a world of infinite layers, each one more complex than the last, held together by the promise that we will never have to say goodbye to the light. If you have followed this descent into the future and feel the weight of this new reality, check if you are already subscribed to this channel, because we are just beginning to explore the territories where technology and existence merge into something entirely new and extraordinary. If you've watched this far, it's because you like this case. Leave a comment saying, "I've watched this far," so I can get to know you and know who really likes the stories here on the channel. Take advantage of this moment of reflection to leave your like as it is a sign that the depth of this narrative has found an echo in your own perception of what is to come. And finally, share this vision with those you want to walk alongside you in this horizon of permanence, so that we can discuss the price and the glory together of an endless life. The sun disappears over the horizon, but the lights of the Nexus remain on, pulsing with the energy of 1,000,000 lives that now belong to history, but also to the eternal future we have just built.